Welcome back to the Big Bid Theory. Bill Colhane. As now we've transitioned over, obviously, to the YouTube, the video side of things. And I just went through the introductions of our guest on this episode. Those of you on the audio only side, you just heard me go through the bios on our guest. And in the bottom down there in the description of the episode, we'll have the full bios of our guests. But for now, Yesenia Chuca serves the City of Houston as Deputy Assistant Director in the Strategic Procurement Division there in the great city of Houston. Hey, Yesenia.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. And Perla Arredondo is the Training Administrator there for the City of Houston Strategic Procurement Division. Perla, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing ever so well. Getting closer to the weekend. Yay.
Yes,
Yay
yeah.
to the weekend. So, we'll pick things up in a moment, but I do want to remind everybody the David and Beverly Nash Leadership Award, the nomination period has begun for the Nash Leadership Award. And many of you remember Brooke Smith from Murray City, Utah. I know many of you out there in listener and viewer land, you know Brooke. She was the first ever recipient of the award, and that was about 9 months ago. Coming up in December, we hope to have our second honoree for the award named there. So we'll go through obviously we're in the nomination process now, and then we have our committee who will convene and select the next winner. So that's a great segue. Speaking of tremendous leaders in the world of procurement, Yesenia and Perla, you are no doubt in that group. And I just mentioned it on the audio side. Yesenia and Perla, along with our good friend Amber Miller from Ascension Parish Schools and Stephen Hetzel and Josh Schwartzbeck from Beacon Bid, were a part of a panel that did a presentation at NIGP Forum in Denver. And sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I think that was a week ago. And other times it seems like it was forever ago. But the panel, I was fortunate enough to serve as the moderator. Let me get the name right. It was a presentation on modernization of public procurement, AI, e-procurement, and implementation best practices. And by the way, there are video clips out on the internet. Perla and Yesenia, some of the clips from their parts of the presentation, and NIGP, I know they still have an archive of the full presentation for anybody who is registered for forums. So you do want to check that out. So again, Yesenia and Perla, know you're super busy. Thanks so much for joining us. I would like to turn it over to the both of you. Just your overall thoughts on NIGP Forum. What did you like? What did you learn? What did you think about Denver?
All right. I can start, Bill. NIGP Forum was an incredible experience. I appreciated the opportunity to connect with colleagues and share ideas on how procurement can continue to evolve and bring value to our respective agencies. The sessions were both inspiring and they were practical. I walked away with some strategies, especially around modernization. But the session that I really enjoyed was, Will AI Take My Job? With David Kidd and Brooke Smith as the speakers. It was energetic, it was interactive, it was filled with references to lots of hit movies from the 80s. They discussed how public procurement is changing and the fears that are tied to the use of AI in procurement. They also touched on human skills that AI can't replace, such as judgment, ethics, and creativity. But overall, Bill, I enjoyed the energy of just being surrounded by people who are passionate about public procurement as I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Brooke. I mentioned Brooke. And for at least 2-3 years now, Brooke has really been out there telling the story of AI and what's going on, how the technology is evolving. She's exceptional. So Perla, what about you? What do you think about Forum?
So fun fact, it was actually my first forum, and I was really excited that it being my first forum, I actually, got to participate on a panel. So I was really excited about that. And like I said, this is the first time I ever went. So I didn't necessarily know what to expect from forum, but I really enjoyed like the keynote speakers. I think they did a great job putting that together. Just inspiring you to, be that change and, go back with full energy to your organizations. And so I really enjoyed that. And then of course, anything related to AI, modernization, anything like that, definitely grabs my attention each time. So I would say I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great points by both of you. And I remember my first forum, Perla, and it's, at least for me, I guess I better speak for myself, but it seemed so overwhelming. There was so much going on, but I made the decision at my first forum many years ago that I was just going to dive in and soak up as much as I could, try to meet as many people as I could, because I think the networking aspect of it is so important, because we're here in the great state of Texas, but there are great things going on in Maine and Oregon and Minnesota. And so I thought that was really neat. We've mentioned the presentation. In my prior life, being on television, being on radio, you don't see the audience usually. So I'm going to ask the two of you, what was it like being there up on stage, a packed room there in Denver? The virtual audience was one of the record breakers at Forum. I know we couldn't see the virtual audience, but there were a lot of people tuned in, so to speak. So what did y'all think about the presentation? And what about anybody out there who's maybe going to be asked to be a member of a panel or thinking about doing a presentation at Forum or maybe some other related conference? What would you tell those people?
So I would say that serving on the panel was both exciting and humbling at the same time. Being on a stage in front of such a large audience with bright lights directed right at you was
very bright lights.
Yeah, it was a little overwhelming at first, but that quickly turned into a rewarding experience once we engaged in conversation. Sharing insights and hearing from the other panelists made it feel like a conversation rather than a presentation. So that definitely made things a bit easier. Bill, I would absolutely recommend that others take that opportunity to present or serve on a panel. It's not only a chance to give back and share your experiences and ideas, but it's also a powerful way to grow professionally. So I strongly encourage it.
Perla?
Well, besides being, a nervous wreck at the beginning, it was really exciting. And I think, once you're on stage, and I think that the part that just made it a breeze is that, we're talking about real life experiences, something that we went through, that we took part of. So I think that just, we're not making anything up. It's just literally having a conversation about, what took place, what actions did we take. So, I mean, I had a good time, because of the fact that, working with a great team, us in City Houston, and then y'all folks from Beacon, and, Amber as well. I think we make a great team. I think we've bragged about that. So, but I think why I guess the reason why I would encourage people to do it is just, realizing the impact that you're making in other organizations by just sharing your insight, your experience. It goes so much more than just here locally. You're reaching other people from all across the country, and I think that's just what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree totally. And hearing you speak there, Perla, and I think back to our time in Denver when I realized it was your first time at Forum, and I thought to myself, my first Forum, I was just trying to be in the right place at the right time, right, with my little schedule. And so the thought that you were taking in your first Forum, and oh, by the way, doing a presentation in front of a packed ballroom, that was really impressive. So some of the nuts and bolts from the presentation itself, just to kind of amplify what we talked about, y'all presented in Denver. Yesenia, start with you. One phrase that you and I was, as the moderator, we kind of coined champions for change. And so when the city of Houston went through the process of identifying a new procurement technology, talk about that team building process, because I think somebody made the comment, implementing a procurement technology isn't walking over to the wall and flipping on a switch. There's a lot that goes into it, and it takes people. So talk about that aspect.
Oh yeah, building the right team for me is key.
Yeah.
So let's just use software, for example, in this scenario, the implementation of Beacon Bid, right? in my experience for any software solution, because this isn't my first rodeo, you got to have the team. You have to identify, and I know you know what I'm about to say, your champions for change, right? You have to identify these individuals, and these individuals consist of leadership that can set the vision and support it along the way, the team members that understand the need and can bring ideas to the table and execute on those ideas, and the technical experts on both sides who know the software and understand the system and the needs. So with that, again, you have pre-implementation, post-implementation, and there's just different levels of, I guess, engagement, right? So on the pre-implementation, it's critical, in my opinion, to engage this team early on and collaborate to ensure that there is alignment on the goals. The key here is that you have to have clear communication and set clear expectations along the way, right? Can we agree to that?
Yeah.
Post-implementation, that same team becomes your support network. That team is helping troubleshoot any challenges that may have come up. They're encouraging adoption and buy-in from your client departments. They're providing suggestions for improvement and ensuring that the solution itself continues to evolve with the agency's needs. So that team, those champions for change, are key and critical, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, obviously I agree, because you and I were, kind of trading notes about that important aspect of it. Once upon a time, I was in healthcare clinical software implementations, and I learned my very first implementation how important of a piece that is. The technology is one thing, but
Yeah.
if you can't get it implemented, if you can't train your users, then what do you have? You have a box of dirt. You don't have software.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, tremendous job, and thanks for sharing that insight, Yesenia and Perla. During the presentation, suppliers were mentioned early and often. You discussed that the city of Houston put an emphasis on the supplier experience. Perla, can you, for our listeners, our viewers out there, can you kind of elaborate on what is meant by that, the supplier experience?
So we received constant feedback from the supplier community, especially, this is one not our first implementation. And, with our previous system, we received feedback on, system usage and how friendly it was to navigate. So we basically took that feedback and knew that we had to make it a priority to make sure that our next system that we implemented was user-friendly. I think that was our priority overall. We didn't want our supplier community to come into or visit our website and, have a difficult experience just trying to either obtain documents or view the information that we were putting out, and nonetheless also, submitting a response. So I think we definitely took that feedback and made it a priority. I think we share that with Beacon well on, and we're like, hey, this is one of our top needs and requests overall. So I think, we just listened to the feedback, and it ended up working out to our benefit, because it actually, the user friendliness also benefit our internal staff who are using the system on the back end and putting out, solicitations. So. Yeah,
a good point. And obviously I have a little bit of experience in this, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not even going to tell you where I was when I've heard these things. But as I travel around the country, sometimes when I have conversations with people, I'm going to be honest with everybody. I mention suppliers, I mention the supplier experience, and there's no reaction. But conversely, I do hear so many people out there talking about, suppliers are a big part of the process. Can't forget about suppliers. And I know people who are passionate about that, including the two of you and your team in Houston. Yesenia, let's go back to the process itself, the implementation process. You mentioned the bright lights shining on the stage. Well, I was able to see enough of the people that when we started talking about the fact that the city of Houston went from signature basically to go live in 45 days. I saw people turn their heads and look at each other like, what? Did they just say 45 days? That's impossible. It's not impossible.
It's very possible.
It's very possible.
Oh yeah, it's very possible. Believe me, when and I think I even mentioned it at Forum when we asked our Chief Procurement Officer, Jedediah Greenfield, what timeline were we looking at, and he said 45 days. I wondered myself if I kept a straight face, but I think I did. But again, it's possible, and it ties back to having the right team in place, Bill. If you have the right team in place, it's possible with collaboration. Okay. And I'm big. My team knows that I am a huge advocate for collaboration. I am a huge advocate for empowering my team members and providing that leadership, and then empowering them to also lead in their processes. So collaboration is key for me. And with that, to me, collaboration includes a combination of focus, clear communication, clear expectations, and most importantly, commitment, right? If you're saying, I want to collaborate and I want to be a part of this and I want to help you execute, it requires commitment. Everyone that was involved in this 45-day turnaround understood this implementation period, understood the 45 days. So it was time to focus, priorities were set, and they were clear. For example, let's just touch on strong communication. You have to have strong communication within your internal team, but also with your external team. In this scenario, it was Beacon Bid. Communication keeps everyone aligned and focused on the goals and the tasks at hand. And with that, I know a big one was setting clear expectations, right? Yeah. You have to set clear expectations. Commitment was key. We understood it. We knew what the expectations were. Each member on this team leaned in and understood these and understood their roles within this process and put in the necessary effort. And we collaborated and made the 45-day turnaround happen.
Yeah, it was amazing the way that the two teams were able to kind of come together and make it happen, because you can't have one side, taking care of their requirements and have the other.
It's both. Yes.
It took both working in concert, working in tandem. So yes, everybody out there, wasn't a typo. Our audio is fine. 45 days. Yes. Perla, you were talking a moment ago about suppliers. I would like to stay on suppliers just for a moment. So the city of Houston, at the start, the 1st of February, I think the supplier list was like 4,000. And last I checked, it's over 10,000. So that speaks a lot to the work that the team in Houston did. Also, obviously, Beacon Bid played a part in that as well. But now that you have from 4,000 to more than double to 10,000 suppliers and growing, how do you support your suppliers? Is there a help desk involved? Is there a process involved? What is Beacon Bid doing?
So we do have a designated team. We call it our supplier management team, and that team's actually grown. I remember, it used to be about 2, and I think it's doubled in size because the amount of suppliers that we have. But surprisingly, even though we have that amount of suppliers that are now part of Beacon and are registered, taking it back to the user friendliness of the system, it actually, we don't have as many calls, needing our team to support, suppliers because of the user friendliness. I think majority of the calls are talking about vendor numbers and back-end processes that are not necessarily related to submitting a response to a bid. But overall, it's just we've always been transparent. We've tried to send out clear communication from the very beginning, even before we made the transition with sending mass emails or even on our website, making the appropriate changes on there to notify them of changes. And we still try to keep maintenance on their website, and anything new, we let them know, we push them. And then, even updating them at vendor events. You know, I have one tomorrow, so letting them know about, hey, we have a new system. So we try to stay active in our community, letting them know what changes the city of Houston is making to better serve them as well. So, yeah.
So I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball. This is off script, but hearing, and I've known both of you for a while now, and hearing both of you during this podcast. So we have people watching this video who don't know hardly anything about procurement or purchasing, right? They're just checking out a video, right? So I'm going to ask both of you, one of you can take it, both of you. Why is having more suppliers, why is having more competition? My wife is from Houston. I have connection to Houston. Why is that important to the people, the taxpayers, citizens, and leaders of Houston? More suppliers. What if somebody is saying, so what?
It is our duty to identify the best overall value for the agency. In our scenario, it's for the city of Houston. So having a large vendor pool so that vendors and suppliers can, you know, bid and compete against providing services, whatever it may be, or a commodity, at the end of the day, it boils down to who's going to provide the best overall value to the city of Houston. So we need suppliers to participate. It's important to us. We need that competition, right, when it comes to bidding. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're here to, you know, save taxpayer dollars, and that's just one way to do it. You know, our role is to identify best value, negotiate the best possible contracts that we can, and it's all for the taxpayers.
Yeah, I agree. Perla, do you have any thoughts, anything to add to that?
I mean, I agree. I was pretty much going to say everything Yesenia said. I just, you know, piggyback on that. But yeah, we're just, I mean, it's important for us to care, you know, how, you know, the money of the city is being utilized. And even, I mean, I know Yesenia and I both live in the city of Houston. So not only do we work in the city of Houston, but those are the same, you know, roads that are being paved, the issues that are being addressed. I mean, they affect us too. And I think sometimes that people tend to forget that. So it's, I do find value in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're kind of up against the clock here, but to the both of you, anything you'd like to add, or kind of as a wrap-up summary to our conversation?
I'd like to hear your thoughts about Forum, Bill. What did you like? What did you learn? What stood out to you?
Yeah, so interesting story. Thanks for asking that. So interesting story, and I think I mentioned it to the both of you, but I had actually been to the Colorado Convention Center there in Denver 6 weeks previous. I was at the American Waterworks Association. So it was kind of surreal for me to be back in the same place, different group of people, different kind of mission for this conference. But anyway, so that was kind of interesting. But I always go back to seeing friends that I don't get to see for a while. You know, I mentioned Brooke Smith. You know, I hadn't seen Brooke in person since she won the Dave and Beverly Nash Leadership Award in December, and she came by our booth in the exhibit hall. And so we did a Zoom, we did a presentation virtually and all that, but to be able to, you know, hug her and say hello to her. So that's just one example of maybe because I'm getting older, but, you know, relationships really matter so much to me. You know, there's a lot of learning that goes on. We've talked about that, a lot of tremendous presentations. And, you know, I was there on behalf of Beacon Bid. So we're there in the exhibit hall and we're talking software and those kinds of things. And that's important. But for me, it's the people. You know, networking with people. I met people there in Denver who I consider friends now. And I know I can call upon if something were to come up, and look forward to seeing them again. So, yeah, it was a great time. The panel was certainly a highlight. I do want to say that. I kind of joked with my wife. I said the panel was successful despite me, not because of me as the moderator. But yeah, that was fun as well.
You did a great job as moderator.
Thank you very much. I got a little bit of a suntan with those lights.
Right, with the lights.
Yeah, but it was great. Well, Yesenia, Perla, on behalf of our entire The Big Bid Theory audience, thank you so much. And want to remind our audience, by the way, before we do get off, keep an eye out. Again, there's some clips circulating on LinkedIn, etc. Kind of a recap of some of the things that Yesenia and Perla presented there at NIGP Forum in Denver. So be sure to check those out and share those with your friends. Some real interesting and important insights.